Dr. Murray left the room, they say he got up and took more pills and also injected more propofol.
He said, get here right away. Mr. Jackson had a bad reaction.
It's called some other dude did it defense, except in this case, we can't point to some other dude.
I've never seen nothing like this in my life.
Have you ever heard Michael Jackson sound like that before?
Not that extreme.
That's what happens when Murray's not there to treat him.
Welcome back. I am Ryan Smith. We are outside the courthouse where Dr. Murray is facing trial in the death of Michael Jackson. They are on a lunch break right now.
This has been a day of explosive testimony. Michael Jackson's director of logistics, clearly shaken at times, discussing how he is there, and Paris walks in and screams, "Daddy! Daddy!" And Michael Jackson is lying down, looking toward her with his eyes open. By the way, I'm Jane Velez Mitchell. We've been monitoring it together, Ryan. Really heartbreaking when you think of that poor little girl who would have been approximately 11 at the time, a couple of years ago, seeing her dad in that light.
It's one of the most heartbreaking moments of this trial. We heard about it a little bit yesterday, more today, about the children seeing all that was going on as their father was passing away. But Alberto Alvarez, the director of logistics, essentially one of the bodyguards of Michael Jackson, has been on the stand all day. He's been talking about what he saw in that room as Michael Jackson was slipping away. So many big moments of testimony. We're going to go through all of them for you so you're fully caught up. But, you know, first, let's talk about one of the big moments. I just want to play the sound for you because this was one that shocked so many. Alberto Alvarez was in the room. He was assisting Dr. Murray with CPR as Dr. Murray was giving mouth-to-mouth to Michael Jackson. Take a look at what he says Dr. Murray said to him.
It's bizarre.
What, if anything, did Dr. Murray say as he was giving mouth-to-mouth to Mr. Jackson?
I recall that after a couple or a few breaths that he breathed into Mr. Jackson, he came up and he said, this is the first time I do mouth-to-mouth, but I have to. He's my friend. And he continued to give mouth-to-mouth, sir.
Now, I find that completely and utterly bizarre. Oh, this is the first time I've ever done mouth-to-mouth, but I have to because Michael Jackson's my friend. What?
Yeah.
He's your patient first, not your friend first. And I think that this is absolutely a very, very important confusion. And I want to throw it out to Sonny Hostin. We saw the same thing in the Anna Nicole Smith situation, where the doctors confused their roles, that they thought they were friends as opposed to strictly doctors. And once that role confusion occurs, you have basically no boundaries. And once you have no boundaries, that's precisely when medical care starts being affected. Sonny, your thoughts?
I think you're exactly right. The lines were clearly blurred here. And really, I think what's most important to note is that the medical lines appear to have been blurred. I mean, doctors take an oath, much like lawyers do, to do what they're supposed to do under the medical standards. And it's clear that he did a lot of things that just weren't medically sound. And perhaps he was not only jaded and by the fact that he was making a lot of money, the fact that his greed may have jaded him, but also because those lines may have been blurred. Doctor, patient, friend to friend, it just doesn't make sense. But I think Alberto Alvarez did a wonderful job on the witness stand. He appeared to be very, very credible for this prosecution.
Yeah, and you know, the prosecution made it clear to make that point to the jury that he's suffering financial ruin right now. He was offered hundreds of thousands of dollars by the National Enquirer to tell his story. He refused. That just builds his credibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, I think that now the cross-examination kind of beating up on him backfires because you hear this guy who has literally passed up an opportunity to make hundreds of thousands of dollars so that he can be a credible witness in this case. And then if you see him, if the defense is verging on badgering him, that's got a boomerang.
Yeah, he doesn't have any reason to lie on that stand. I think that's what's critical here. So he's getting up there, he's telling his story, and he comes off credibly. Jean Casares was inside the courtroom. She's with us now. Jean, what did you see in that courtroom that maybe our cameras didn't see?
Well, first of all, the jury, they were shown not only the saline bag, but the bottle of propofol, and David Walgren took it and just walked past them, and they all just sort of leaned forward and stared at it. This was the bottle that prosecutors say held the propofol that ended Michael Jackson's life. Now, the jurors didn't get to touch the bottle or the saline bag, but they got inches away from it and just were riveted looking at it. Janet Jackson is sitting next to Randy again today. She is closest to the jurors. At times, she and Randy would talk. Catherine Jackson and Joe Jackson, just very stoic the entire time. They never spoke a word to each other. You never really saw them turn to their children and talk to their children, but just listening intently of how their child spent his last few minutes of life. LaToya and Rebe Jackson are close to each other, talking a little bit, but the family just focused, intently focused on that bedroom, and maybe hearing some things this morning for the very first time.
Yeah, Jane, can I just say this? I'm amazed at their strength in that courtroom, because what we heard this morning is some of the most stunning stuff we've heard in this trial, especially when they start talking about things like the way this propofol was administered to Michael Jackson. It just seems so haphazard. And we're talking about their son, their brother, the king of pop.
I agree with you. It's like a jerry-rigged system that he set up to administer propofol, actually sticking it inside a saline bag. And a saline bag should have its own purpose, not just be a holder for propofol. So I want to play what Alberto Alvarez, this bodyguard, said about the key substance here, propofol, and then get some analysis. Alberto Alvarez talking about exactly what he saw in Michael Jackson's IV.
Can you describe what you observed about that bottle or that saline bag that you removed?
Well, what I recall is, like I said, it was at my eye level, and I was able to notice that at the bottom of the bag, there was what appeared to me like a milky white substance, sir.
Stand by.
Now, I'm just curious about this, and I want to go back out to Gene Casares, because I've heard that it was a bottle of propofol inside the saline bag. Now we're hearing him say that it was a milky white substance. So which is it?
I think it was both. I think the bottle was tilted, positioned off where it should have been to do a drip right into, we believe, Michael Jackson, and that's why some milky substance had leaked out of that bottle. That's what I think he was trying to show. You know, I want to talk to you about the family for a minute, because they listened to all of this. They listened to that testimony, that bottle that was tilted inside that saline bag. They don't talk with anyone. They are very closed within among themselves. They leave the courtroom, go to a room during the break, and guards are with them, security, as they go into that room. When they come back, everybody watches them. You might smile at them. They don't really smile back. They are just very self-contained within themselves.
What, Gene, did the family do when they heard about Paris yelling, "Daddy," when she saw Michael Jackson presumably dead?
That I saw a reaction. Janet shook her head. Janet just shook her head like this when she heard that. It touched her very deeply. I'm sure it touched all of them. One other thing I want to tell you, someone else that I confirmed is in the courtroom today, and we haven't known it until today, but Conrad Murray's mother is in that courtroom. She is an elderly woman. She has beautiful silver gray hair that she has in a bun at the nape of her neck. She is at the left side toward the defense table, sitting a few rows back. And I'm sure it pains her to sit in that courtroom and listen to this and watch this. You know, his father is deceased, his mother alive. When I left the courtroom, I saw Conrad and his mother looking at each other, but I didn't see any expression out of his eyes or his mouth toward his mother. I just saw them staring at each other, basically.
And Gene, is there any interaction in that courtroom between Conrad Murray's mother and any of the Jackson family?
No, not that I have seen. She is on the other side. She is with some of the defense camp that are there. I have not seen a reaction at all, but she does have Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department surrounding her as she goes to the restroom, and that is how I found out who she was.
Well, essentially, this witness is painting a picture of a doctor who is more concerned with covering up the crime scene, putting vials stuffed into a bag before calling 911. That's another critical aspect of his testimony.
Yeah, and the family drama is playing out inside that courtroom. Jackson family in there, as Gene just said, Conrad Murray's mother in that courtroom. We'll have more when we come back.
Michael self-medicated. Why? Hey, if you love Michael so much, why didn't you go to his house and get him off drugs?
He wasn't on drugs.
All right.
He was
What
just
about the
trying to go to
pharmaceutical
sleep.
drugs he was getting? For years, pharmaceutical drugs in Hollywood. Hollywood killed Michael.
You don't know that.
Dr. Murray didn't kill him. Hollywood killed him.
Educate yourself. You don't know what you're talking about.